imagination, prophecy, enlightenment, and truth. These are the four principles of the Transcendent Worlds. Four worlds, fitted with galaxies, realms, and planets abound. Who am I, you may ask? I am the mysterious stranger. I will be your guide through these vast worlds. Worlds fitted into these universes. These are the tales that we wish to tell, that I have the honor to share with you. These are the tales of the verse.
Death. The inevitable end. It does not matter which road you take, or the hall that you pass down. Everyone comes to the final door. Some see it black, some a pale white. Others upon a horse, cladded in white or black cloak. They call Death the Reaper, the Taker, the Thief in the Night, the Pale Rider. So many ominous and powerful names. Yet no one truly knows what death is like, for those who live have not yet met him, and those who have, whether dead or still lingering, do not speak of him. For like an old friend or a stranger, a quiet reverence passes over all those who utter his name. And in many worlds, death takes on different forms. Yet, within the Transcendent Worlds, there lies one planet where death is in most abundance, not only in the act of dying, no, but in a culture that thoroughly believed and fully trusted death. The Leoto people, that is what they were called. They were an unordinary people. Though they did many of the things that in your world would be considered normal, they also did many things that were unusual and abnormal. The Leotao people were humble, and they fully trusted in the ideal of death. Death, like an old friend, came and went, and would be at the passing of those who were ready to go on to the next world. In the next world, the spirit would go, leaving behind the body to the earth and the dust, almost like shedding old skin for new. No one quite knew what lied on the other side. What they knew is that death was the sweet, peaceful release of life. They did not, however, treat life as though it were misery. On the contrary, it was an honor, a wonderful experience where one could see all things, do many things, and there they could bask in mortality's great pleasures, beauties, and struggles. For the good and the bad were a blessing to the people. And the Lato people never questioned death, for they knew that when their time would come, it was right, and there was no need to doubt that that was true. But what if you lost something? something of greatest importance, something that if you were to lose, you would almost lose a part of yourself, be incomplete, lost, full of dread and despair, an utter darkness, an abyss that could not be satisfied by any food or drink of any kind, by any pleasure or taste or smell, by no treasure, by no worth of anything of the world, for its insatiable thirst could not be quenched. To lose something like this, one may not be so satisfied with death and life. For the thing I speak of is not just simply an object, nor a possession. It is a person. For many people, to lose a loved one is far worse than losing a possession. For to lose a person of great interest and value is to lose purpose itself, especially when that person was the love of your life. Each step was heavier than the last for Morterium. Though painful, though tiring, he continued his great sojourn up the mountainside. Much of the land was black, black sand and dirt. The sky, like nightfall, almost constantly. A sun as blue as a sapphire, and the moon, like a white pearl, ever hanging as a pale, ghostly mass in the sky. This was the world of Corthana, where the Leto people had dwelt for many, many years. And upon these steps were the ancient ruins of the elders' far long forgotten temple. At the top, it was known that there were two pillars representing death and life. They were the doorways to the next world, some said. But they had not been touched nor traveled to in a very long time. In the olden days, the elders used to make a long trip up the mountain steps to reach the doorway, so that they too could pass on. Others would travel there in the olden days to honor their fallen dead, their ancestors. But now, it was simply a memory, a lost, sacred place that no one truly would go to. They believed it had become too sacred for any one person to go to. They now buried their dead deep in catacombs and tombs below the earth, deep in the darkness, never to be seen again. Still, the sky made it almost as dark as the tombs below. If it weren't for the stars, it could almost always be seen. And this night, though being very dark, it did not dissuade Morterium's tenacious determination. It had been some time since he had come to a place like this. His father, when he was still alive, had brought him to sacred places like this, to teach him the ways of death and life, the rituals of religion between the peoples and death himself. Oh, those were the days, Morterium thought, so simple and innocent. How could they have gone so terribly wrong as time has passed? They did not age well like wine. No, it was as if they became more bitter and shriveled up like berries in winter. Morterium looked away from the cliff below. He had caught himself drifting in thought. He was ever eager to reach the top, for his quest was of the utmost importance. As he journeyed forward across the steps, his black cape drifted across the steps he had already stepped upon. It was cold, dark, and lonesome. Barely a wind to blow, not even a breeze. Morterium continued to look up towards the top of the mountain, ever longing, ever determined. His blue glowing eyes flashed in the dark of the night, and the white pale moon lingered above him, shining down upon the mountainside. He wondered, could there really be a sacred place up here still? It had been so long. Even the finest stone that this planet offered could not always withstand the age of time. Time, Morterium thought. Time is always against us. That long, dastardly thing. Ever watching, ever waiting. It almost works with death, Morterium thought. That thing constantly acting upon us. It never stops, never waits for us to finish a meal, or go and enjoy a moment with a loved one. Time always needs to push its hours ahead. Sometimes it almost feels like time itself is the one in a hurry. Again Morterium thought to himself, and caught himself drifting. He brushed it off, shaking his head, and continued up the steps. His hand clenching to the left side onto something black, smooth and shining. It was strapped to his belt, and it looked quite heavy. Something long, something sharp. As Morterium took more steps, he began to notice that not only was time passing, but he also felt that the hours were growing much longer with every step he took. Perhaps this was a foolish endeavor, Morterium thought. Maybe it would be better if I turned back. But how could he turn back? He had fought so hard to reach the top of this mountain. It was no easy feat. Not only do the elements and the weather work against you at the bottom of the mountain, but there is also the act of both energy and strength. The mountain tests the very will of those who travel up it. It would take a matter of days at times to reach the top. Many people would choose to camp on the sides of the mountain, even on the steps, which could be a dangerous act if you were not careful in your sleep. But it mattered not. Many would still do it. But why would they do it, Morterium thought. What purpose would it serve to reach the top of the mountain? Would it not be a waste? Not just of time, but a waste of effort? Effort, Morterium thought. He stopped before he took another step, began to dawn on him. What effort did it ever bring? What reward was brought of effort to any of the elders, both in the olden days and the new? Burying the dead, such a wasteful thing. So many tombs full of those who will never come back, fading with time and becoming dust with the earth. He could not handle the thought, thinking that the effort that he was now putting in could be a waste. No, Morterium thought. I must continue my journey. Morterium continued up the steps. On and on he went. The mask-like helm, which bore 2 antlers on the left and right sides, wavered in the wind. The breeze, or the subtle soft blow, had become somewhat stronger. It continued to blow, moving his cape, blowing on his horns. What a journey it had been. There had been so much pain, so much longing. Morterium in his heart began to sink. He began to stop slowly, for he recalled a thought. He remembered the day that she had put upon him the rights and bonds of trust and honor. He remembered that day he looked into her eyes, and all he could see was purity, light, and joy. A joy he had never felt before. A joy that was so... He caught himself again. He shook his head. His eyes looked back to the top of the mountain. Enough of this, he thought. No more distractions. He would not have any more of it. Taking more steps, he thought of it. Love. What a painful thing. To instill it into our hearts, like some wicked animal, creeping inside of us, burrowing a hole into the deep, ever crevices of our hearts. How could we allow something so foul, so... Morterium thought for a moment. He knew in his heart the truth of how he really felt. So wonderful, he thought to himself. Love, both the bitter poison and the beautiful, delicious drink. Oh, how he longed for it. Oh, how he wished it was there with him. Why could she not have stayed? Morterium's emotions began to grow. He snarled. She couldn't have stayed. No, she couldn't have stayed, not because of love, not because of time, not because of effort, not because of any power in the universe other than one. He remembered. His stride grew, and he continued up the steps, faster, stronger, more determined than ever, for he remembered the one thing, the thing above all else that had taken her away. Death. Morterium looked before him. He had reached the top of the mountain. There, straight across from him, at the other edge of the mountainside, 2 black onyx-like pillars, one to the left and the other to the right. The one to the left looked the most aged, yet still beautifully intact, as if it were still as fresh as the day it was made. The right, somewhat the same, but somewhat taller, for a part of it still had not broken off. Between the 2 lied a black-like table, a stone table built into the ground. It had many different shapes and symbols upon it, lining and engraved within it. Dust and snow was upon it. What surprised Morterium is that there was no snow anywhere else, only on these rocky formations. And as he moved forward, he saw much more. It was not so much with sight that he saw. It was in his soul, you might say, that he saw much more. It was both a feeling, a thought, and even a presence. He could sense it all at once. It was a feeling of both sadness and joy. Two feelings that Morterium did not believe went well together. Then it began to happen. A strange, like veil, came between the two pillars. Like waves of the water they did move. Back and forth, back and forth. They continued to move in a strange, like trance. They could be seen through, but you could also see the subtle shine that came from not only the light of the moon, but from this invisible force itself. And like glass, it did shimmer.
Show yourself,
Morterium said, in a low whisper.
I know you're here.
In an instant, a small glowing light began to break through the veil. Slowly it grew and grew, brighter and brighter, until a small blue flame appeared, floating between the two pillars. Morterium clenched the object to his side a little bit more.
Who goes there?
A voice whispered. Morterium, not knowing if he should respond, fell silent.
Who goes there?
Choosing not to say a thing, Morterium simply adjusted his stance and prepared more for an attack. As he did this, the flame, almost like an eye, seemed to look down at him. And as it did, it said,
Morterium, son of Taurapia.
Morterium loosened his stance. His head peeked up towards the blue flame, floating high in the air. He felt naked, vulnerable. He was exposed now. He did not think that this strange blue flame was anything to be concerned with. He thought simply he was just preparing for the true thing he had come to see. He had never believed the legends, or at least he had not recently. His faith had dwindled so much that now he only believed in one thing that he was soon to reveal.
How do you know my name?
Morterium inquired.
We know all. We know all who come and go. We even know one's purpose. Why one has come.
And why is it that I have come? Morterium asked. Holding tightly to the handle that was sheathed under his cloak, the flame flickered and responded.
You have come to challenge death.
The whole area fell silent. The wind stopped blowing. Any sound or creeping thing in the distance did not utter a word, nor a whisper, not even a call. The flame turned into a bright pink. Then it twisted into a red, and the flame grew bigger.
If this is why you have come, then you will die.
Morterium unsheathed the blade.
So be it.
The blade was a black, ebony color. It was smooth and as sharp as a blade could be sharp. The handle and the hilt were very strange. In your world, a hilt is often more of the shape of a cross. But in his world, blades were made much differently. The hilt pointed down and was curved like that of a crescent moon. Only one side bore that crescent shape. The rest of the handle was smooth and squared. The entire blade was fused as one. There were no separate parts like that of the swords of your world. Oh no. This one was so smooth and sharp, it looked as though it could cut right through the stone of the sanctuary before him.
Reveal yourself. I've come. You know why I'm here. There is no more need for ceremony.
The flame flickered, almost somewhat annoyed, and then it spoke and said,
If you have come to challenge me, then you must know.
I must know nothing. He has taken everything from me. What lies does he spread from his lips? I will no longer hear. Show yourself!
The flame vanished. The waves of the veil shimmered more harshly than ever. And as they stilled, the veil opened up. A bright, shining white light pierced the entire land. Morterium covered his eyes, veiling them behind his black cloak, but the light still shined somewhat through. And as it faded, he uncovered himself. His eyes widened and fixed upon the figure that was before him.
Hello, Morterium.
The figure spoke. Morterium froze. What he saw before him he could not believe. A tall, long, thin black figure, almost similar to that of a skeleton, but shaped in such a way it was almost like a rocky body. It was shaped like smooth, black onyx, like the columns before him, curved and formed into a bone skeletal-like shape. But it was not frightening. It was peaceful, almost familiar. The figure had horns, almost like Morterium's, but quite larger. They were big. One was broken off, only halfway reaching, while the other was quite large and long. They were not like a deer's horns, no, much more like blades upon his head. And it was his face that was even more interesting. It was a round, oval-like shape, with blue glowing eyes that were slightly whitish, almost pale in the moonlight. His face had no distinct features other than looking similar to a skull, but quite pleasant. It was a strange feeling. a strange feeling that Morterium knew not how to react to.
Who are you?
Morterium asked.
Am I not the one you've come to see?
Morterium clenched the handle of his sword. It was him. Indeed, it was him. It was death.
Yes, yes, I've come to face you. You have taken everything from me. You are the monster that has been hiding in the shadows all this time. And now you reveal your hand. It will be your demise.
Morterium raised the sword to his left shoulder, and with his right hand he lifted the blade. But as he did this, the figure simply stared at him and did nothing.
Come now, raise your weapon. I have not come all this way for you to do nothing.
What good would it do? I have no need for a weapon, nor I need of any tool or facet to defend myself between you and I.
Morterium stared at him intensely. His sword shook only slightly until he clenched it more to make it still.
Fine, have it your way. Doesn't matter to me how you die. It only matters that you're gone. Gone from this world. Gone from this place.
Gone. Morterium, why do you seek from my departure? I have sought you no harm. I have brought no ill will against you. I have only...
You have only what? Come to take those whose time has come. You have been the very bane of my life. You took everything from me, everyone. You took my father in the field. You took him when I was not looking. He fell. His heart had broken. And you...
I did come to him, and I did relieve him of the pain he did feel.
So that's what you call it. You relieve him of his pain, so that you...
So I could bring him back home.
Morterium stopped suddenly. His sword faltered slightly.
Home? What do you mean, home?
We all come from somewhere, don't we? Back to the place where we all began. I am not the end. I am the beginning. Or the end of the beginning.
Morterium stared at him, ever intently, thinking to himself, home? He had never heard of home in their culture. How could this be? Perhaps he was lying to him. All a trick, a way to weaken his defenses.
There is no such thing. You lie. The elders never spoke of such a place.
Raising his blade back to his shoulder, he charged at the figure before him and in 4 steps slashed at him. But as though he had touched nothing, the blade hit the ground, and there death stood still.
Morterium, what you seek you cannot find here. This place will only lead to...
Lead to what? I will bring you down. You took so much from me. It was not just my father in the fields that you say you brought home. My mother, she fell ill. And what did you do? With all of your power and all of your strength, you did take her from me, too. How could you take her from me?
For a moment, Death did not speak. He simply stared at Morterium, almost with a pity, a mournful look.
Do not pity me. There is no need to pity me. Tell me, what lie do you spread this time to explain as to why my mother was taken from me?
Death softly spoke.
Your mother, a kind and lovely woman. I remember her voice when I first came to her. Truly indeed, her love and her beauty were none to be compared to.
Morterium loosened the grip on his handle of the sword.
She was so sad to leave you. I almost considered coming another time, but I knew if I did not take her now, in that hour, she would...
She would what?
Morterium asked, mournfully.
What would have changed? When I needed her, I had not my father, and you took her.
I took her because she was needed somewhere else. A place that
was home.
Morterium interjected.
This place you speak of, it is not home. It is a prison, and you are its warden.
His mind came back to the thought of slaying Death. He lifted the sword, pointing it towards him, and began the circle around him. All the while, Death looked at him, turning ever slowly, floating in the air like a ghost, waiting for the response that Morterium would make.
I have no more time for your games. I have no more time for your words. I will make quick use of you.
In an instant, Morterium stabbed towards Death. But as he did, Death was not there. It was as if you never were there.
Where have you gone? Where have you gone?
A soft hand fell upon his shoulder. Morterium, dropping his blade to the ground, turned. There Death looked upon him, and in a calm voice he said reassuringly,
My dear Morterium, ever have you walked this earth. You have held a mighty blade, and have taken the lives of others. What have thought them? What had thought their families? Did they not shed tears when they were taken so soon from them? How could you deal such death, and not wonder the price that has come at the cost of your dealings? Look not upon those who have passed, for it is those who are still living that do mourn so that the dead now do pity.
Morterium, his heart fell so deep inside him. He fell to his knees, not only to reach for his sword, but also for he felt the words pierce him, more sharp than any blade he had felt. Could these words be true?
No. This cannot be.
Morterium remarked.
You took something far greater than any of those. Something that I cannot heal. You took something that I can never replace. Why did you have to take her? Why did you have to take her from me? Why did you have to take my dear Polmora?
For a moment, nothing happened. Morterium, looking, staring at the ground, his left hand barely touching his sword, and his right clenched into a fist upon the rock. In the silence, he felt a hand placed again upon his shoulder. It was more reassuring than the previous time. This time, it was firm and it gripped upon his shoulder. But it was in a gentle way, that of a father, a mentor, a friend.
You are in pain. You feel the loss within your soul.
Yes, I do. Why did you take her from me? Why did you have to take the love of my life?
When we embark on the journey of life, it is a path that can be as small as a few steps, or as long as many miles. We all come so that we may help others on their journeys, so that we may have experience to bring about wisdom to our minds. And when the time comes for us to leave, whether unexpected or for the right time, it is made perfect. For I will always take those who are ready to come back home.
Morterium, slightly turning his head towards death, in a sorrowful voice spoke.
Why? Why did she choose to go home? Why would she leave me?
She did not leave you, Morterium. She is with you. She has not left you since the day she has died.
Then why does it hurt so much? Why can you not take me? Why can I not depart from this world and go with her? Kill me! Take me!
Morterium lifted the sword up and presented it towards death.
Take my life. Let me go to her. I cannot spend another day without her. I miss her so.
Oh, Morterium.
Death said, with almost a sadness in his voice.
I cannot take you, my son. Your time has not come. You have many things more to do in this world.
Morterium's hands dropped, and the sword fell to the ground.
It's too painful. I can't keep going. I can't keep doing Please, have mercy upon me.
Mercy. Mercy. It is true mercy.
Death said, as he wrapped his left arm around the shoulders of Morterium, and with his right did take away the tears of his face.
It is true mercy that I would let you live, that you may find joy in this world.
That joy is gone, Death. I can no longer find it.
Joy is not limited by a singular moment. It is brought by the many choices that we make in order to unlock life's many beauties, pleasures, joys, and saddest moments. For it is in pain that we discover that we truly had joy. For if there was no pain, there was no joy to begin with. And if there was no joy, there was no pain to come of it. For the things that matter most, that fulfill all our soul, heart, and needs, bring joy, and with them bring pain, for they were real and true.
Morterium began to sob. He held upon death.
I cannot keep going. Please. It's too much. It's too much.
As Morterium held on to him, the hand of death grew that into a white hand, and it appeared as though a black cloak was in place of his strange body.
Oh, dear one, all do seek, and all will find joy in this life and the next. I promise you.
Morterium looked upon him. He was no longer the strange figure he had seen before, so determined to slay. He was now in a black cloak, covered by a hood, and he had a soft, brown, blackish beard. His face was comely, and it was a peaceful face, the face of joy, a face of peace. It was quite pale, with piercing blue-black eyes, and he had a smile, not one of cheer, but rather one of pleasant love.
Oh, Morterium, if only you could see the great joys on the other side. You will return home one day, but you must decide how you would wish to return. Those who die in battle at times die with remorse and regret, and there are those who die in peace, having lived a full life. And it is here now that you must decide the life you wish to live, even without your love here to be with you. That you must decide how you will go on. Do not pity the dead, Morterium. Pity the living, and above all else, pity those who have no love in their life. For it is an honor that you
were able to do so. Here and now. Morterium finally, in a low voice, said,
I am sorry, Death. Forgive me. Forgive yourself. And go on. Live on.
Death. Is it the beginning of something great, or the end of a simple chapter? Is it the last door in the hallway, or perhaps the door to many doors? For life is not one linear path. It is one of many, and we can decide how it will end. For when we greet an old friend, he will come and ask, how did you live? How did you prosper? How did you love and feel that joy asunder? And then we are left to answer. And let us hope that in the transcendent worlds or in your own world, that we say, we lived well.